Ooh. Ooh. You know what I'm talking about. Ah, sorry, I didn't notice you there with my incredibly sexy new headphones on. Anyway, so here we go. We're going over it again with the HE400 SE. We're getting very close to a final product now. These are in beta. I'm going to try and upload the files, but yeah, if you want to see how all these were built, some of the design changes, and see a bit of the testing, see how they sound, watch this here video. What peoples? And as you can see, more prototyping has been going on. Thank you very much for all your comments. I have taken it on board and changed a few things, and it has to be said I kind of lost sight of the idea of this. I was going a bit expensive with the fancy connectors and stuff, so I've tried to do a cheaper option that's going to be easier for everyone, a bit cheaper build, and then I'll do a fancy version as well. So let us have a look at the changes we've made. So this little nubbin here, which took the connector, some were saying that they preferred this version, but the reason I changed from that to that is because there wasn't quite enough room to actually get the connector. It stuck out too far into here, interfered with the driver. It wouldn't go together. I miscalculated, mismeasured. That's why we ended up with this. So major changes are around that area, and it took a lot of redesigning to kind of get right. So what I've done is I've redesigned it. Have I got a white one? Yeah, here we go. Got a white one here, it's easier to see. Yeah, I've redesigned it, take the original socket. So you should be able to reuse the original socket, and I've hopefully done it in a way that means you won't even have to desolder it. You'll be able to just transfer all the existing stuff out of the original ear cup into the new one, easy peasy. As I said, I'm gonna do a different version that takes the ring connectors and stuff as well. So for those of you that are a bit more handy with soldering, I probably would recommend rewiring them and putting in a nicer connection. But the jack, it's going to mean that you can reuse the same cable, you can reuse the same socket, it can use the same headband, as well as the fancier Chinese headbands, which I've now found separately, which you can get for 40 quid from AliExpress. So we're getting cheaper, Yeah, so you'll be able to reuse the original headband on there. If you would like, while we're on trying to make this cheap and easy but nice, I was thinking this part of the headband is really nice, the aluminium bit here. The thing that lets it down is what's above, so maybe for the next phase I might have a look at if we can redesign the headband slightly. So what I was thinking was if we printed some nicer looking ends here, and maybe change the padding to one from a Bear Dynamic Custom 1, that might do it. Or we could reuse the padding. I'm not that keen on it, but I think what's really letting it down is these end caps. I think if we redesign those, it would make it look more sophisticated and a bit nicer. And also, then if you're printing, you'll be able to print from the same material and make it match. So yeah, so I'm going to add that to the project. It looks like this is going to be a long-going project for the next couple of months. But at the end of it, we'll have some cool stuff that everyone can play with. So I am going to be releasing the files for this. It is very much a beta/alpha. This is not the finished article. I've got a bit more tweaking to do, but we are just about there. But yeah, if you wanted to print it off and have a play, you're welcome to print it off, have a play, tell me what you think. But yeah, I would probably hang fire unless you're super into modding and stuff. So this is the original socket that came with it. That's gonna go into that little hole there, so we can plug our cable in. So let's try and build up one of these ear cups, and I'll show you how it goes together. So we're going to build it just with the 3D printed parts initially. See how it goes. So, oh yeah, the only thing that you can't reuse is possibly the pads. I might have to, yeah, for the next one, I might design something for the pads to click into. I have some appropriate screwdrivers. Oh, before I forget, like and subscribe. Quick, do it now. Okay, have you done it? Oh, you better have. So, if you haven't seen my other video on taking these apart, there's probably a more in-depth one here. I'm just gonna quickly smash through this. Tell you what I should have done is design it so you can reuse these screws. Don't know, are they going to be long enough? Probably not. I think the way this new design works, these original screws aren't going to be long enough. So you're going to need some M3 by 25 screws or bolts or whatever they're called, machine screws. Yeah, I think from what I remember, a machine screw has got thread all the way down, a bolt is only partially threaded. Okay. So that's the metal ring out. Coming, oh, there we go, that's that one out. Now then, these sockets down here, they've usually got a little bit of glue around the edge here, so you're going to want to kind of bust that off. And then maybe, yes, that's loose now. Now then, depending on your nut here and how tight it is, because it's got a little retaining nut. Yeah, mine's pretty tight. What you might want to do is kind of shave down, so this plastic either side that's stopping the socket from turning, you might want to shave that down with a blade or just snap them off with some pliers. Yeah, so if you have a blade or a Dremel, you can cut, sort of shave that down either side, and then you'll be able to reuse this ear cup, but I'm not really that bothered, so I'm just going to snap that off. Ooh, careful. Don't do that. After me breaking one of these drivers, I'm going to say, yeah, be cautious with them. Right, so now from that, I'm going to pop this grill out. That just pops out, and again, if it all goes wrong, you can pop that back in. And also, if you keep that mesh on there, there's like a fine mesh here. If you're concerned about dust getting in, boom, you can do that. It should still fit. Right, so now I've got now I can basically untwist the socket a bit. I wasn't planning on having to fully unscrew that. There you go, so that's that released with the socket attached. Going to have to do something with that tape in a minute. So these are the little hinge pieces. They're going to need to pop out. If you want to reuse the headband, that is. They're going to need to go into the new ear cups. Okie pokey. Right, we're getting somewhere now. Yeah, this is just freshly reprinted this morning, so I think I'm going to have to just clear out any schmoo from around there. Now then, if you were planning on using the Chinese headband, which I've put a link to in the description, this one, ooh, with the original ear cups, I did say it will fit, but you do actually need to just cut out a little notch there. The pins that come with it have got a little locating pin, and you'll need to just file that out to make it fit. They're basically the right size, but it just needs a tiny bit of modification to fit this headband. Whereas on the 3D printed ones, I printed it with a little notch in there. So hopefully these go in. There we go. Right, so that's our little hinge pieces. Or do I have to put those in after? I think, oh, sorry, I'm being an idiot. Considering I designed these, I should know better. Those need to go in after you've installed the driver. Okie pokey. So first of all, I would locate the socket in the hole. You won't be able to get it in once the driver's in. Right, so that's in there. And then, why did they glue the nut in? Who does that? Oh, it's just got a little bit of glue in it. That's okay. That's okay. I'll test fit all this stuff because when you know, like 3D printing, you tend to get weird tolerances. I'm not sure this nut's going to go on. There we go. So we got the socket in and the nut to retain it in place. Then what we want to do is take a little bit of tape and the wire that isn't next to the socket, so whichever side you've printed, just tape that. Is that what we're going to need to do? No, the other one. Sorry, yeah. First time I built this. Yeah, so we're actually going to put the driver in that way with the wires facing up. So we'll do that now and then we'll tape it down. Take the wire down. So what might be good at this, because you need to get this in straight. So maybe get one of your screws through the hole just to help kind of guide it in the right way around. There we go. So now all the blades are lined up with the magnets. That worked surprisingly well. That's good. Right, make sure it's all the way in, all the way around. Okay. Right, now we're going to have to take the wires up out of the way. So I'm going to poke the wire that's closest down into the hole, so it's out of the way. And this other one, I'm going to lead round there, so about halfway down, halfway around the thing until you get down to there. That'll just make assembling the next bit a little bit easier. So just tuck your tape out of the way. Don't use masking tape, use real tape. Okay, so there we go. So then we're going to have to get these little hinge jobbies in. There we go. Right, so the hinge pieces are in. My terrible tape is not holding itself down. Right, okay, which is the inner part? Sorry, I've had so many of these. So then this has got a little channel for the cables to hide in. That goes at the bottom where the cable is, and if you use real tape, it'll hold it in place. Yeah, it's a bit weird because the driver this second driver that I've taken out has actually got the diaphragm rotated slightly, so the magnets are like that, and the voice coil wires don't quite match up with it, which makes it look a little bit weird. I'm not sure that's right. The other one was perfectly in line. So let's get this through. Just rotated just a fraction of a degree there, so that wasn't going through. Right. So all I did there was stick a screwdriver through one of the holes I'm not using and just kind of drag it round to line it up again. Now then, what I've done is in the back of this, I've made these holes slightly conical, so you don't need to use self-tapping screws. You can just use normal nuts and they'll tap their own thread in there, so the little conical shape will guide it in, and then it'll tap its own thread. And these are 25mm by M3. Right, so there we have our new ear cap with fins now, with more fins. And it took a lot more designing, but we've not had to desolder anything, and it reuses the original socket, so that is dirt cheap. That's just the cost of the 3D print. Haven't had to replace anything, can reuse the cables and everything and get most of the benefits of this. You know, changing the socket, you're just going to look baller. But this is good. And there's lots of cables that you know, if you want an upgraded cable, there's lots of cables you can get. Cool. And now this will take biodynamic size pads. Can we adapt this? Don't know, this is all glued. I think it's all glued in. Yeah. So I might be able to design so that clicks on there so you can reuse the existing pads as well. That might be a thing. So yeah, so if you'd like to reuse the pads, stick it in the comments and I'll do that. Or if you've got any other ideas, let me know. While we've got it here, we might as well give it a bit of a test. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut the edge off this for now, jam that on there, just so that we can do a like for like comparison with a standard HE400 SE and see where we're at. Okay, so leave that with me for a bit and I'll set that up. Right, so I've modified the original pad so it'll fit on this new ear cap, and as you can see it's looking pretty good. I think it looks really nice. If nothing else, it looks more sophisticated than the original. I think that looks quite nice. Bit of Chinese engineering combined with a bit of British design. That's what could go wrong. So, yeah, so let's get some measurements and compare what they're like with the same pads, just to see what difference smoothing the airflow has made to the overall sound. I literally don't know at this point, and a lot of the stuff that's going to change in the sound won't be represented necessarily in the frequency responses, because it's kind of how it produces that waveform rather than the volume that it produces that waveform at. But I'm hoping it gives a little bit more punch in the bass, because that's kind of what they're missing. These drop all the way down, but they're lacking a little impact down low. So let's get these on the test rig and see what ting up guan. Right, so we've got those on there. We're measuring the left one, which is the original. Let's measure. Okay, so that's our original, just there. I think that's right. With the right. So with our new ear cup, let's have a look at that. Okay, so old one blue, new one red. So as you can see, there are some changes. So we're with the same pad, but we have picked up these few decibels down here in the bass, which is kind of what I was hoping for. I'm hoping that gives it a bit more impact down below, just so it stays flat from about 1k down to probably 35 hertz and then starts to drop off. So the drop off starts at about 70 hertz originally, and now that's got that down to about 35. So that's good. What we've lost is this bit here. So we've got a bit of a scoop out there, which isn't unusual. Like a lot of headphones have got that around the kind of 4k mark. And then again, the treble is smoothed out a little bit. Because on the original one you've got a bit of a peak and then a bit of a trough. That peak is reduced, the trough is reduced, and you've got that filled in there. So it drops off a bit more, up to about 20k. But I don't know, people love the Harman curve where it kind of curves off at the top there. So I think we're doing all right. So let's label that up. 3D printed. Cool. Right, so while I'm here, I've also got some other pads which we'll try just to see what we've got. So let's give this a go. So we've got, okay, so I think this is a DT770 pad. So this is like a velour pad with a kind of dense internal foam. Cool. And what I'll do is I'll just get rid of the original. We'll just see what difference the pads make. So that's with our original pad. So this one, the top end is pretty similar, but it doesn't extend, the base extension isn't as far with the 770 pad. So let's try 770M pad, which is a leather. Hide the 770 pad, and then we'll measure again with the 770M pad. Okay, yeah, so as I said, you tend to get a bit more of a hump in the base with leather pads, but the drop off here is more significant, so I'd say it would be more noticeable around there. The top end again is pretty similar, but you get this little peak around 800 and then it drops down, so I think you're going to probably hear that. I don't think that's the best pad. You've also got a hump there, it's probably going to make the bass sound a little bit muddy, potentially. I've got these angled jobbers with a smaller ear hole. These, I don't know where these came from, I just found them in the drawer upstairs. I think there's some Chinese angled pads that we bought, just plain 100mm angled pads, but they're quite, oh, look at those are quite deep. Let's get those again. So those ones, we've actually gained a small amount of volume across the board. The bass, you've got more right down here, so it drops down 30, doesn't drop off until 30 Hertz with those, so that's getting really good now. In the sub-bass region, a little bit more spiky at the top here with a peak, with a couple of noticeable peaks, so I suspect the top end might be a little bit harsh. Like, it's not as bad, you know, if you look at the height of that, it's not actually much higher. You've just got this scoop out the middle with a peak about 4.5K. Don't know. What I'm going to have to do is obviously finish these off and have a listen to these things. This is just kind of giving us an idea of how pads change it. So a thicker pad like that, made of leather, you get a bit more bass. And then I've got a 990 pad here from Biodynamic DC 990. They've got a less dense foam inside, so I'm expecting to see kind of a drop off in the bass again, but potentially smoothing out the treble. We'll see. Let's get those on there. So it's a bit like the other those must be 770 pads. So I've got the 990 and the 770 mixed up, I think. So those look similar to the tuning on the other 770 pads, and I don't think that's probably what we want. So original pads, good, and these big fat angled Chinese jobbies, they look good as well. I think all I did to find those was put in angled and then the size, which I think is 95 or 100mm. I found those. Unfortunately, it was a long time ago. I can't remember, but I'm sure if you look at those, there you go. If I hold it up there, you can see the shape of these. So those angled ones with the big hole in, they seem to be good. I'm going to have a bit of a listen. But again, these are the beta ones, they're not quite there. Yes, that was quite interesting. I'm glad that we haven't ruined them. There's still a little bit of tweaking to do. I'm going to try a few other things and a bit of tuning, see if we can change that little scoop out the middle, see if we can beef that up a little bit with some stuff. But I'm also got to obviously print another one of these and just have a really good listen. That's what you got to do. So there we go. If nothing else, these are starting to look a lot set. You know, like meh, ooh, ooh. Yeah. You know what I'm talking about. Oh yeah. Yep. So any changes that you'd like to see, stick them in the comments. I'll have a look at that. But I think we're just about there. This is just about a real pair of headphones now. 3D printed and converted using the original parts from the HE400 SE, which is pretty cool. Next week, prettier. Try and pretty up the headband. Sexy cable. Great hanging out, and see you guys in a couple of weeks after my holiday, and we'll have some more stuff then. But yeah, let me know what you think.